To Wash Day, my friends and relatives, welcome to the Red Road Radio Show. I'm your host, Lou Hastings from the Native Now Foundation, and we are cruising through a brand new week. We are live. This is Tuesday, May the 9th. Wow, I can't believe it's already May 9th. And we are broadcasting live on FYINation.com. If you would like to get in touch with us, if you have any questions for us, any comments, during the course of the show, if you are on Twitter, hashtag FYI Live is the way to reach us. You can also go to FYINation.com and jump right into the chat room there, and we'll be able to see your comments live. So that's one of the reasons that we do a live show, is so that we can have that interaction with the audience, and I'm happy to do so, and I'm happy you guys are out there. I'm very thankful that you are out there every single night listening, and we're able to bring you news and interviews from Indian country every single night. So that is really, really important to us. And tonight, we have a very special guest with us. We have Ricardo Cate. He is a Kiowa Pueblo, Santo Domingo, in New Mexico, and draws the only native cartoon that runs as a daily in a mainstream newspaper. His cartoon, Without Reservations, appears in both the Santa Fe New Mexican and Taos News. His work can also be viewed on his Facebook pages, Ricardo Cate and Without Reservations. Ricardo simply draws about native life and how it coexists with the dominant culture from a native's perspective. And Ricardo, welcome to the Red Road Radio Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm really appreciative that you were able to take the time to be with us tonight on the show and to be able to speak to our listeners. And I wanted to sort of start out by asking you, first of all, how did you get started in your art and your cartooning? And did it start as cartooning, or did it start as doodling, painting? Why don't you tell us how you got started with art in the very first place?
I guess I'd always doodled as a kid in elementary school, and so I had this friend David, who I grew up with, and we were pretty much inseparable from third grade on. But by the time we hit junior high or middle school, back then when middle school started at seventh grade, we found ourselves in separate classrooms for the very first time. And so we started doodling the things that were happening in our respective classrooms. And instead of exchanging notes like all other girls and boys did, we were exchanging cartoons in between classes. And I would laugh because I was reading what was happening in his class and he was doing the same thing. And that's pretty much how it started. And once I got into high school, I drew the cartoon for the high school newspaper, and then in college, and when I was in the Marine Corps, I drew a few cartoons for Stars and Stripes. And then about 10 years ago, when I walked into Santa Fe, New Mexican, I submitted some of my cartoons, even though they explained to me I had to go to a syndicate from where they got their cartoon page from. And I told them, well, I'm right here. Do you want to see the cartoons? And so 5 minutes after that, when I wouldn't take no for an answer, the editor finally said, okay, let me look at the cartoons. And she loved them so much. And there's about 20 people in there that were reading them, and they were all laughing. And she said, we got to have this cartoon in this paper. And so that's pretty much how it started.
That's fantastic. And you said that was 10 years ago?
Yeah, in fact, 10 years this October will mark. It'll mark the 10th anniversary of my cartoon being in the Santa Fe, New Mexican. And by the way, they voted to get rid of like 4 cartoons because they wanted the cartoons to be in bigger, larger print. And in order to do that, they had to get rid of 4 cartoons. And so they went from I think it was 21 cartoons, and now they have 17 or 16. But anyway, so because of the voting, it was determined 2 years ago that my cartoon was the #1 cartoon in the Santa Fe, New Mexican. It was 3 times more popular than Peanuts, which was #2.
Wow. And without reservations, is that something that sort of developed over time, or was that something that, like 10 years ago, that was what you were going to call your strip?
Yeah, about 2 weeks before the cartoon was going to run in the paper, I drew them in black and white, and I got the call from the editor, and she says, well, we're going to start this in 2 weeks, but we were wondering if we don't have a way to do this now because you're drawing them here, then we're sending them to the syndicate. Is there a way that you can color the cartoons and then submit them that way after you scan them, she said. And I must have paused, but I said, sure. And then she goes, are you sure about this? Because before that, we were just going to call the cartoon Cate's World, which is kind of lame, but I didn't have enough time to come up with a better title. But when she asked me, are you sure you can color these cartoons? I said, yeah. And then she goes, you have no reservations about that? And that's when it hit me, and I told her, that's the name of the cartoon. It's going to be without reservations. And that's how I came up with that 2 weeks prior to printing.
That is fantastic. What a great story that is. I didn't see that coming. That's pretty cool. And I love the double entendre of the title of it. And is this something that you work on daily, Ricardo, or is this something that you sit down at a certain point during the week? So is it a weekly cartoon, I guess, is my
no,
question.
It's a daily. I draw it. It comes out every day except Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And so by now I have over 4,000 of them to date. So
holy cow!
And every one of them is funny. No.
They're pretty funny, Ricardo. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, they're not all funny, but I think my batting average is pretty good.
Yeah, you do tackle some serious issues as well. I noticed. You will draw social commentary, I guess, if you're so inclined. I guess if that's the mood that you're in, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And you had asked how I do, draw the cartoons. Well, I accumulate a lot of this information by observing people, especially here on the res, or listening to what they're saying, or some of the stories that my relatives have told me about, other relatives. And, we have all those funny stories. And so I draw upon that. And then at the same time, it depends on what's going on in the world around me, especially now with Trump. I tend to draw a lot of Trump cartoons, but those are the ones I put on Facebook, and they're entirely different from the ones I draw for the newspaper, which are a little more tame, I guess. And so it depends on the mood, yes. So, but I do have at least 1 to 2 weeks worth of ideas in advance. I
was going to ask you that next, as a matter of fact, because, I know what it takes to prep for the radio show, and I would imagine, especially having a daily.
Lou, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I just lost Lou for a second. Let me. I apologize for that. Lou,
No, go ahead.
The beauty of Skype, unfortunately, when we're doing a live show, and I'm not quite sure what he was going to ask you. So let me try calling him right back and see what's going on, because I literally just lost him. So just bear with me here. Usually doesn't happen like this, but one moment there. And thank you for staying on the air with us. I apologize for that. Let me.
No, it's cool.
I'm calling Lou right back, and hopefully Lou can hear me now. Lou, can you hear me now? One of the horrors of Skype sometimes. Lou, there you are. Now I hear you. I just heard Lou for a second, and then let me try calling him back, and try one more second. And my apologies, Lou. Can you hear me now?
No, don't worry about it.
Lou, can you?
Well, I'm hearing nothing but static here, guys.
Well, we can hear.
I'm not exactly sure
I can hear you guys now.
if we are on air or off air.
I'm trying to let Lou know.
Okay, so from what I understand, you can hear me, but I cannot hear you. All I hear is static. So
what?
Even now?
Yeah.
I don't know where this issue is.
Let me try.
Just sort of cut out on us.
Let me try and call you both back at the same time, and we'll do it that way. And
Do you want me to hang up?
Yeah, if you could, and I'm gonna call you both back. So
okay.
We'll do it that way. And again, my apologies on this, folks, and to the audience. So let me first try and call Lou back, and then our guest back. And unfortunately, this is part of a live show, and when we do this, Skype, you can't always control that. And Lou, are you there? And can you hear me okay? Lou, can you hear me okay? Lou? We can hear Lou in the background, but let me try something else to get Lou, because I know another way to do that. And let me try calling Lou a different way, and then calling our guest. So bear with me, folks, and I apologize for this. We're doing it the old-fashioned way. Lou, can you hear me now? Lou?
Yes.
Lou, I'm going to call our guest back. I told him I was going to call both of you back. I apologize for using the phone, but I figured this would be the best way to do it, and he's okay with it. So we're flying by the seat of our pants tonight.
Okay.
So it's all good, and I'm calling him right now, and I will let you know when he's on air. And my apologies again to the audience and to you. I don't know why Skype is misbehaving tonight, but apparently it decided to go on us. But sir, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. Can everybody hear each other?
I think so at this point.
Okay, awesome. Lou, you were going to ask a question. I'll shut up and let you continue your show. And sometimes technology just has a bump in the road. And, here we go.
Yes, Ricardo, I do apologize about that. Sometimes these things happen. Normally, this show goes off without a hitch. And last night, of course, nothing goes wrong, and I was talking to myself. So tonight, when we actually have a guest, and Skype decides to jump out on us, so I do apologize for that. But
No,
I wanted to ask you. We are human, and sometimes we do get sick. So it pays to have some work in the can, right? Some things that are ready to go, and probably you have to travel. So
Yes.
how much in advance do you have set aside? Do you have a week's worth of cartoons ready to go, or is there a yardstick, a measuring stick that you use for what you want to have for your comfort level in advance of deadline?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm supposed to have 4 to 6 weeks in advance, and I started out that way the first year or so, but then my editor in the beginning, he was from New York City, and he wasn't familiar with Indian time, and so since 9 years ago, I've only been doing. I guess the deadline is at the latest is the Wednesday before the week of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So the Wednesday before that week is the ultimate deadline at 5:00. And so for the past 9 years, I've been turning him in on Wednesday. And so I've only been like 1 week in advance. I've been turning them in. And if I anticipate a road trip or something coming up, I'll try to turn them in before I leave, or I'll scan them from where I'm at and send them in through whatever means are available, depending on where I'm at. So it drove the guy crazy, and so now I have a new editor that accepts him, and but that's the best I can do. I know they want 4 to 6 weeks before, but I turn them in the Wednesday before, and so tomorrow I'm going to be turning them in for next week.
Okay. And do you have a book, don't you, of comic strips?
Yes, it's available through Gibbs Smith Publishing, and the book came out in August of 2012. It's a compilation. Is that the word? Of my work up until then, and however, the cartoons I sent this guy originally, it might explain that he's Mormon from Utah, Layton, Utah, and I sent him a bunch of comics, but then he sent like 60 or 70 of them back, and he said they were too racy, and I had to send others in their place, and so I rather liked everything that I sent him, but when the book came out, I was somewhat disappointed because it wasn't everything that I wanted in this first book, and so as much as I like the book, once I get out of the contract for book 2 with him, I like to come out with my own cartoons, which would be handpicked by me, and so it's still a great book. It's called Without Reservations. It's got the picture of my main character, the Chief, on it, and it's available on Amazon through Gibbs Smith Publishing.
Great. So we can send people to Amazon to go and pick it up, and I would highly recommend our listeners out there to go and check out your work, because I think it really is funny, but I also enjoy your social commentary. And the reason that I bring up the social commentary is because I know, like I know that you had gone to Standing Rock last year, and it affected you as it did so many other people that went. And you actually created art and cartoons based on that event. I remember one specifically having to do with Facebook Hill. Right? There was a cartoon about Facebook Hill.
Yeah.
So, if you would, first of all, I want to ask you, do you consider yourself an activist? And what did Standing Rock mean to you? I tell my audience all the time that I think that Standing Rock in two eras, right? I think of before Standing Rock and after Standing Rock, because it was such a seismic shift in indigenous voices being heard. And it went from next to nothing to there is a voice now after Standing Rock. And I wanted to get your kind of your feelings and your thoughts on that as well, because obviously you were moved enough to go.
Yeah, I remember the date was August 25th. I had taken my daughter up to Fort Lewis in Durango, Colorado, driving up from New Mexico. And 2 days prior to that, I had seen some stuff on Facebook about this movement. And when I was in her room, she set up her computer for me while she had to go do some stuff before I left her. And went on Facebook, and I started seeing more stuff about Standing Rock. And what really bothered me was the fact that the original pipeline was supposed to go about a mile north of Bismarck, but the town protested and said, it would be bad for them. And so they moved it 26 miles south, 1 mile just north of the reservation. And that's what really got me. I was like, it made me really angry. And so I'm looking at this. And so I left her, and as I'm driving out of Durango, there's this one stoplight, and if you go right, you go back towards New Mexico, or if you turn left, well, the road will lead you up to Denver. And in that split second that light changed, I cut in front of a car and turned left, and right then and there I decided I want to go up there. And it was more out of curiosity because, well, I was angry, but I was curious to see what was going on up there. I wanted to see for myself, and this is my youngest child that I was sending off to college, and so I was okay leaving home, and so I just went. And when I got up there, I was pretty moved. It was pretty small, not that small, but maybe about 1,500 people were there, and when I first got there, and I was more moved by how far these people came from. They came from all over the country. And then I stayed there for about 4 weeks, and I watched as tribe after tribe came in, and I was very moved by that, the fact that all these tribes were coming in to help out this one. And you saw for yourself what was happening. And so I went there. I had to come home each month, take care of business. I spent maybe a week home, and then I would go back up. So I went up on 4 different occasions, and the last time I came home was December 3rd. Yeah.
So right before the blizzard.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it was just starting, and so I just barely missed me.
So actually, when you were first there, I was also there at that same time, at the end of August, and I went up to visit my family there, and was camped out near the where the road split, where it first came down from the north entrance. Right where that log was, where all the kids played on that log.
I was across that log.
Oh, okay. So I was right there. Our camp was right next to that log, right at the break of the two roads, and it was by design to put our camp there because we were able to hear all of the things that were happening on the PA system. And of course the cook shack was right there too, so that didn't hurt either. But like you mentioned, watching all the different nations come in, and this of course was before the flags went up along the road, and how people were greeted and how people came together in prayer and in solidarity for one purpose. And it really was something, well, you know, it made you go back over and over again. And did you have a chance to, when you went back, did you have a chance to really go around and speak to a bunch of different folks? Because I have to say I didn't, and I was only there the one time. But I'm wondering, from a person and a perspective of someone who went there several times, did you have that fellowship with people in the camp each time that you went?
Oh, yeah. Every time on a daily basis, I was meeting up to 50 people at a time, and each day. But when I first got up there, I spent the first 4 or 5 days trying to acclimate myself with my surroundings and helping out in camp. I was chopping wood, I was peeling potatoes and cutting up onions, and then I would, because I have a teaching degree, about August 27th or 28th is when the school opened. And so that first week I was teaching art with the kids there. We only had like 13, 15 kids at the beginning, but the second time I went up, they had like 34, and it kept growing, the number of students. And so I would do that. About day 4 is when I started thinking, oh, hey, you know, I'm up here and I have this following on Facebook, and I could bring more attention to this cause because there wasn't enough on Facebook at the time. And so I started drawing cartoons about my experience there. And I think it was the 3rd or 4th cartoon that I drew, the Facebook one that you mentioned, because I would have to go up on this hill to be able to catch the Wi-Fi signal. And then I would send my cartoon, I would take a picture of it and then send it off from the top of the hill. And more people started coming up there. And so it was kind of fun to see as I walked back down and see all these people with their arms all stretched out, you know, trying to catch a signal. And so I turned around and I drew that. And at the bottom, you could see the tops of the teepees and the tents, and then the hill in the back, and some characters trying to catch a signal. And so once I started drawing the cartoons and putting them on Facebook, I was getting first 500, 600 likes, and then it jumped to 1,000. And so it was really, really cool that I thought that here are these 1,000 people that just saw this, and a lot of them shared it. And so in my own way, I was, doing my part to get people to pay attention to what was going on. And so I would draw things as they happened. I was there September 3rd when they unleashed the dogs, and so that was a Saturday. It was a Labor Day weekend, and so I was there. I remember drawing 3 or 4 cartoons from that day. And September 12th, 15th is when the guns first showed up. And then each time I remember all like each moment, like when the police first showed up in riot gear. I mean, they were in regular police gear up until mid-September when we went up to Bismarck, the capital, and that was the first time I saw policemen in the riot gear. And so that day I drew. So each thing that happened, I was as it happened, I would draw, and I actually compiled all those drawings in a book that I self-published. I didn't find any publisher, but it's a book of drawings on Standing Rock, and I was able to print 250 books, and those books are gone already, and so I have to order another batch and see if I could sell those. And so most people are probably familiar with the little girl carrying the teddy bear, and she's putting a feather in the muzzle of a rifle that one of the guards is pointing, not to her, but just pointing out, but the girl is reaching up and putting a feather in. I had painted that and put on my Facebook. And then 2 months ago, I saw that someone had taken that, and they're selling T-shirts of that, my design without my permission. But I'm glad that my name's still on there, and I'm glad, well, I don't know, but there's a lot of drawings that I have. I have like maybe 86 in all of everything I experienced up there in cartoon form. So.
Well, I hope you're able to publish more of those, because I think, number one, there's definitely a market for them, and number two, it is important social commentary, because as a teacher and as a communicator, you do that every day with your humor and your cartoons in the newspapers. But something like this is extra, right? This is an amplification, again, of indigenous voices and indigenous issues. So I really hope that you're able to print more of those, Ricardo, and that they are available. Do you normally have things like that when you go to art shows and appear? I know you were at one recently, were you not?
Yeah, I go all around the country. In fact, I'll be in Chicago on June 24th, speaking at a National Librarians Association conference, and I'll have some books there. Then I'm at the Cherokee Art Market in October. And of course, I do the Indian Market here in Santa Fe. And so, I will have those books available. And I usually just market them on Facebook. I'll put it on my Facebook page saying, okay, I have this many books. And then people contact me through there. And that's how I've been doing it. I'm at that point, I think, where I need an agent, an assistant first, and then maybe an agent to start helping me how to market this better, because I really want to get this out to more people. Right now, I'm more of a regional thing, and so, but I would love to have more people check out my work, especially non-natives, because like you said, this is our voice. And I want them to see, from our perspective, our point of view, how we see, what's going on in this country, in this world. So, I'm hoping that happens soon.
Absolutely, and to your credit, I think your reach is absolutely beyond your region. You might be able to walk down the street and people know who you are, where you are, but I can tell you that I was in D.C. for the Native Nations Rise March, and I waved to you. It was immediately after the rally ended across the street from the White House, but I was on the phone, and okay. I was actually on the phone with the radio show, broadcasting live, and I saw you, and I was like, man, I gotta try and flag down Ricardo, but and you waved back to me, but you were with somebody talking, and I was talking, so we couldn't connect that way. But I knew who you were through Facebook, of course, yeah. and through your work. So whatever you have done and whatever you're doing, it's working. So I would tend to agree with you. An assistant is probably absolutely in order for you.
Yeah, you probably recognize me with my bandana because when I was up at Standing Rock, remember when the people from I forget the tribe, but they were rowing in their canoes. You may not have been there, but there's about 2,000 of us down by the river because this tribe had brought in their canoes and they were or they were coming in, and so. But then we're all out there, and then someone taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and they said, "Are you Ricardo Cate?" I said, "I'm Ricardo Cate." And they said, "The cartoonist?" I said, "Yeah." "How did you know?" And they said, "Well, they said to look for the red bandana." And so I was the only one wearing the red bandana. And it turns out it was Comedy Central's daily show, and so they I was on one of their segments for when they reported from Standing Rock, and so it's the bandana, and I'm wearing it right now, so it's kind of my staple, I guess. I don't know.
Right, it's definitely something that you're known for, and of course the photo that we have up on redroadradio.com announcing that you're going to be here on the show tonight has you wearing a bandana. So you're right. That is how I knew who you were, but also from seeing your pictures on Facebook from when you were drawing at Standing Rock. What do you think is next for your career? What direction would you like to see it go? I know that you mentioned that you'd like to reach a wider audience, particularly non-native, but let's assume that you do get your assistant and your agent comes immediately following, which I don't think you're going to have a problem getting, by the way. What would you like the next step to be for your career?
Well, this is kind of more of a personal thing. The first one I'm going to mention, which is animating my cartoon, and I'm about to partner up with Acoma Pueblo, which is another pueblo about 100 miles from my village, but we speak the same language, the same dialect. But anyway, they're going to help me animate my stuff because my work right now is currently in their visitor center. And there's even billboards along the highway here in Arizona and New Mexico, which is really cool. I've never seen my work on billboards. But anyway, they're going to help me animate the thing. And then I have to find Wes Studi because I hang out with him out here in Santa Fe. And so he had told me once that if I ever animated my cartoon, he would love to be the voice of the chief, which is my main character. And so I'm going to hold him to that. The other one is just simply getting into more papers, finding a syndicate that will take me, that will put me into at least 20, 50 newspapers, especially out here in the West. I had tried going to United or King, I can't remember which, one of those big syndicates, and they're based in Kansas City on the Missouri side, and I actually went to the office. And I left my portfolio there because nobody came downstairs. I waited there for 2 hours. I had to go. So I left my portfolio there, and they emailed me. This was about 6 years ago. And they emailed me, and they said, thank you for submitting your cartoons. They're very funny. However, we cannot use this, and blah, blah, blah. And then the last sentence was, this country's not ready for this cartoon. And so I wrote back and I said, well, I appreciate you taking the time to read my cartoon and blah, blah, blah. And my last sentence was to them, this country has been waiting 528 years for this cartoon. And so that was my first attempt to get into a syndicate. And I was somewhat upset, but then I realized that maybe they were kind of edgy, and I wanted to not tone it down, but to make the cartoon more universal so everybody got it. It wasn't what I was trying to say. It was just the way I was saying it. And so I thought I can still get the point across. I just got to figure out how to make them more universal. And that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years. And I think that's why it became the #1 cartoon in Santa Fe because the readership up there is only it's 80% non-native, and so I think now the cartoon is ready for another syndicate. I'm going to try to get into a syndicate and just see what happens. So those two things are what's like on the horizon right now.
And those are fantastic goals, and certainly you have paid your dues, as they say, working at it for a decade in a major newspaper, number one, but working at it your whole life. Has this always been your passion? Did you think this is what I'm going to do as my work or as my life's work, or did you think that this was going to be maybe a side hobby?
No, I think I always knew that I was going to do this. The only thing was I was unfortunate enough to be a really good runner, long distance runner, and my father and my coaches in high school and in college tried to pave the way for me to do great things with my running ability, and they even chose my classes, and I wasn't very happy, and so I'm glad things really didn't work out with that, because the whole time I was always doodling and doing these cartoons for the paper or whatever, and so I always knew that I was going to do this. It's just that I always thought that the way people taught that I had to do all these other things to be able to meet my financial needs. I have 3 kids that I basically raised myself. I'm a single father, and now they're all grown, but I had to look out for them, and you have to feed them and clothe them and all that. And so I was always trying to find something that would make me comfortable financially, and for some reason I didn't think cartooning was it until maybe about 5 years ago. It started to happen. The first 5 years we were still struggling, but I had dropped everything to just do what I do now, and firmly believing that it was going to get us out of this rut. And so just in the last 5 years, it's been happening, and it's been great, and the kids are happy, and we're doing fine now, and I know now I have to concentrate on even making this cartoon even better, and see what happens in the next decade. But I'm very happy to be doing what I always wanted to do, and this is the greatest job in the world. I mean, I just sit and draw every day. That's what I do. So I couldn't be happier.
And I have to tell you, looking at your work, and I don't know how to explain this, Ricardo, but you can tell in some of your, but if not all, of your cartoons that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain why I feel that way. It's almost as if someone is drawing with a passion, with a joy of doing it, rather than just being mechanical about it. Because so many people talk about doing something creative on a deadline or on a schedule, and how they dread it. But for you, it seems like it works, and it shows. Do you see the same thing when you look at your work after you finish a piece and say, oh, I can tell what mood I was in when I was drawing this piece?
Yeah.
Is that something that you can look at and point to and say, oh yeah, I remember this time. This is when I was going through this or this or this.
Oh yeah. I mean, even now, well, there's even a little bit more to that, because now I'm meeting all these people that have been fans all these years, and they, I get to talk to them, and some of the stories that they relay back to me about how they feel about the cartoons, or what it did for them, or their loved ones who had passed, and simply people telling me, like, lots and lots of people tell me, "Oh, I cut out your cartoons, and we put them all over the refrigerator, or we put them all over the wall," and people cut them out. And they display them everywhere. I went to the Indian school in Santa Fe a few years back, and there's 2 classrooms with the walls covered with clippings of my cartoons, and even the principal, his whole door was all covered, and I just couldn't believe it. And so now, I guess the first couple of years, it wasn't really mechanical, but I was just trying to churn out these cartoons just for the sake of, like, the deadline you said. But after meeting these people, I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't just go, okay, I need one more cartoon. Okay, blah blah blah. Here, I just draw it. Now I'm more conscientious about what I draw because of the readership, because of these people, the kids. I go speak in classrooms because kids ask me to come out. Can you come to our classroom and make this presentation? And then these kids start drawing, and they send stuff to me. And so what I started doing was taking some of these kids, and just like on Family Circus, maybe for 1 week, I'll have these kids as guest cartoonists. And instead of my cartoon appearing in the paper, they have their cartoon. And oh my gosh, it really makes them feel great to have them see their cartoon in this paper. And the Santa Fe New Mexican is really great about doing that. And I really thank them for doing that, because, it really makes these kids feel great, and so yeah, I put a lot more care and thoughts into these cartoons, and the characters are just amazing. And I had mentioned the chief being my main character, and I am now at that point, and this has happened in the last few months. I would wake up, and I would actually think and say, "Oh my gosh, I wonder what the chief's going to say today." And I thought, that is so weird, because I am the chief, I am the creator, but even I'm at that point where even I don't know what the chief's going to say, because it just comes out, and it's very strange. I don't know how to explain it, but that's how it feels right now.
That's a talent. That's a gift. When something is, it pops into your head and is bestowed upon you, if you will, and some people have that gift that they can then turn around and express it in ways like this, in art. And I feel the same way about musicians that can take these feelings that they get. Maybe they're asleep, maybe they're pondering something at home, or in solitude in a studio, and this emotion just comes out in the form of song, and in your case, in the form of art. And a lot of great artists have done that throughout the course of history. And I think for our listeners, make no mistake, cartooning is art, especially when you can attribute it to observation, social commentary, humor, anything that connects us as human beings. And I think your work is such a great example of that. And
thank you.
And I do. I appreciate your work. And just from listening to you talk about the way that it teaches, and the fact that you go and visit schools and talk to kids, you still have that teacher in you. Is that something that you think will run throughout the rest of your career? And would you ever consider becoming an educator again, or is this what you're supposed to educate with?
Yeah, I've always thought that I'll go back to teaching at some point. I was a 7th, 8th grade social studies teacher, and so, but even though I go to classrooms and talk to kids, even my adult audiences, because they're mostly non-native, I also get to teach them about things native, and I get to put these issues on the table and talk to them, because my cartoons will appear on the screen behind me, and then I get to talk about it. And so, but at the same time, there's also all these expectations of being native, and even though my hair is long, I hide it in my bandana. I sometimes roll it up, or it's braided in the back, and I don't have like an outfit with feathers and all that stuff, and so when I appear on stage, it's just me. But I do kind of mess with them a little bit. In fact, I was just telling them. I was telling a friend up in D.C. who wanted me to go do what do you call it? An appearance at the museum up there sometime in the fall, and I said, well, I have a tight schedule because I might be going to Paris, France in October, which I am, to go speak out there. But I said, let me think about it. And she goes, okay, I'll give you a minute to think about it. And I said, okay, well, that's just long enough for the native thinking song. And she looks at me, she says, the native thinking song? I said, you never heard of the native thinking song? She goes, no. And I started drumming a beat, and I go, well, this is how it goes, the native thinking song. And I go, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho. Way-ya, hey-ya, 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 way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho. Way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho. And then she said, oh, my gosh, you are so crazy. And I said, well, this is who I am. I'm just messing with you. But, yeah, a lot of stuff I just come up with on the spot. And so when I'm talking to audiences, I do that. And so just recently at a casino here, local, last month, it was for a benefit for Santa Fe Indian School, and someone came up to me and they said, we heard you do comedy. And I said, no, not really. It's just when I talk to the audiences, I can make them laugh. And they said, well, that's comedy. And so can you do stand-up for this cause? And so I went, and it was a crowd of 900, and I decided, yeah, I'll just do it. So since then, I've done maybe 5 or 6 other things this year, but I did one up in Michigan a couple of years back, and so I enjoy doing a bit of stand-up too. So
terrific. Well, you certainly have a lot to say, and for our listeners out there, we've been visiting with Ricardo Cate, who is the artist, the cartoonist of the cartoon strip Without Reservations. And I'll have to say that we are extremely blessed that you have taken the time to be on our show and to bring some of the background of not only your career but of your cartoon strip to an audience that maybe would not normally have been exposed to that. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. We're coming up towards the top of the hour and the end of the show, but okay. I want to give you a couple of minutes to sort of wrap up. Number one, to let the audience know how they can see your work, how they can pick up a book if they would like one. And lastly, Ricardo, I would like you to sort of sum up in just a couple of minutes, what do you think is missing in the non-native narrative about indigenous issues? And I know it's tough to synthesize down into 2 minutes, but if you could, just share that with our audience.
Oh, geez. So much is missing. there's so much misunderstanding and non-understanding about natives simply because, as a social studies teacher, I was appalled that, we only have like one page or a couple pages in that thick book that just barely mentions natives. And when they do, it's always white people saving the natives or whatnot. And they're, it's their history. It's not ours. And so I'm hoping this cartoon helps to at least draw more attention to some of the issues that have to do with natives. And I'm not out to speak for all natives, but in my cartoons you will see how treaties haven't been honored. You will see read about the massacres or some of the battles, and it's actually being used as a teaching tool around here, especially at the Indian school up in Santa Fe. And so I honestly believe that as artists, whether it's through music or dance or rap or cartooning, jewelry and acting, movies, the more they see us out there, the more non-natives will see us as people, and not those images they see in the movies or on TV. And once they put faces on us, I think they will stop putting those faces on mascots. But it's going to be a slow process. But I think we're headed in. I know we're headed in that direction. And so I don't know. If you have a talent, just go with it. And if you're native and you don't think you're good enough, oh my gosh, you are good enough. You're even better than people from the dominant culture, because you live in two worlds. And if you're listening, go out and do it. Show everyone what you're good at. And so my work, I guess, you can see my work on Facebook. You can either go to Ricardo Cate, my last name spelled Cate, or you can go to Without Reservations, and you'll see a cartoon image of the chief, and you can follow me through that. And hopefully I'll be able to post everything that I post on my personal page, and so you'll be able to follow me that way. You can get my book through Amazon. Like I said, it's Gibbs Smith Publishers, and let's see what else. I don't know. Somehow, if you can contact me, my email address is kuwacate@gmail.com. I would love to come to your college or university and speak, or your event. Just let me know. My schedule is filling up slowly, but I love to travel. I love to drive. I love to, fly, whatever, however I can get there, and just to meet the people. And I don't know. Is that
terrific?
A minute?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Ricardo, for coming on our show today and spending this time with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it as well.
And please stay in touch. And we've got to have you on again sometime when there's not technical issues. There's so much more that we could talk about, and I hope we can do that in the future. Okay.
I look forward to it.
All right. And that'll do it for this edition of the Red Road Radio Show with Ricardo Cate. And please join us tomorrow evening when we'll be back live at 10 p.m. Thank you, as always, for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time on the Red Road Radio Show.